On this week's Ranked and Reviewed, we step back to Gotham City for our review of Batman Begins.
We're Batman. Tell us, Mr. Wayne. What do you fear?
How do you know my name?
The world is too small for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear.
Your parents' death was not your fault.
My parents deserve justice.
I cannot let that pass.
If you make yourself more than just a man, then you become something else entirely.
Which is?
A legend, Mr. Wayne.
Master Wayne.
Are you coming back for long, sir?
As long as it takes to show the people of Gotham their city doesn't belong to the criminals and the corrupt.
Bruce?
Rachel?
You were gone a long time.
I know.
Things are worse than ever down here. What chance does Gotham have when the good people do nothing?
Nomec survival suit for advanced infantry. Kevlar utility harness, gas-powered magnetic grapple gun.
What's that?
On the tumbler? Oh, you wouldn't be interested in that.
I spent a lot of time being scared for you. I heard you were back. But the man I loved, the man who vanished, never came back.
He's here. Who? The Batman.
God, that must be destroyed.
Gotham isn't beyond saving.
Just hold on!
Guy dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ranked and Reviewed. I am your host, Tomye West, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, ALANNIS Maximus.
Greetings.
Now, if you haven't already, please subscribe, like, and share, and maybe leave a comment. It would help us out, make us feel good, make you feel good. That's the deal, right, Alan?
That is the deal, and we all like to feel good, don't we?
We all do. We all do. No matter how you want to feel good, that's fine on us. Just feel good.
Yeah, feeling good is good,
It is.
but not too good.
No.
Don't get weird on us.
Yeah. So if you are joining us for the first time, we are ranking and reviewing every Batman movie in the franchise. We're leaving for now Batman 66 out, but we're going with Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises, Batman vs. Superman, and we'll see how we go after that. But we've already done the first four movies, including Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. And now we are here to continue our review and our rankings with our dive into Batman Begins, the starting of the Nolan trilogy. So if you haven't, make sure you subscribe because this is going to be a fun time. Right, Alan?
Yeah. Super duper. Until I reveal my rankings.
Oh, no. Here we go again. Here we go again. So with that, before we get into our thoughts and our conversation about it, I'm going to give you a quick overview of this movie. Now, Batman Begins, released 2005, PG-13. Runtime, 2 hours and 20 minutes. IMDb rating, 8.2 out of 10. And that's really high for an IMDb rating. This is directed by Christopher Nolan. Writers Bob Kane, obviously one of the creators of Batman. David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan, who wrote the screenplay. It stars Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Cillian Murphy, Liam Neeson, and Katie Holmes, just among the few of the top named bill people in this movie. It's a pretty big stacked movie of pretty big popular action / movie stars. So with that, let's get into our thoughts. And as always, I'm going to let Alannis take the table.
It was better than I remember. I still like the first half of the movie. I found I got a little bit bored. Like, I don't really care about Bruce Wayne. And that obviously is very Bruce Wayne heavy. But yeah, it's better than I remember, less boring than I remember looking back on it. I remember it being like mostly just Bruce Wayne and then a little bit of Batman in the end. But there's a fair bit of the Bat in there, which I enjoyed. Yeah, it's definitely better than, I think the way it was paced, minus the excessive Bruce Wayne, is what they should have aimed for the new movie, and length. Like, I think in that regard, this achieved a lot more in its pacing and its length. It didn't overstay its welcome as a whole.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. This is definitely what they should have aimed for with the length and sort of the feel of the new Batman movie. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and criticize that movie any more than I already have, because we've done that quite a lot in our review for it and our discussions after it, including we even just talked about it in Jurassic World's review. So we just can't seem to escape this Batman movie.
PTSD.
So before I get like going with what I thought about it, I've just got to say one thing. Rachel!
Rachel! And I think his voice, his Batman voice, is less annoying in this movie than at least The Dark Knight. Like, I could understand him. Why didn't he stick with this?
I'm just laughing at who you've got on in the background as well.
I was waiting for you to notice.
So, with my thoughts of this movie, I really like this movie a lot, especially when it kicks into the Batman feel. I think that he nailed the feeling of like the rundown shanty area of Gotham City. What do they call it? The slums or something like that,
Yeah.
they call it. I really think that feels like Gotham City, and I would have loved to get a little bit more of that. But what I do appreciate with this movie is how much practical effects, practical sets, everything that they did in this movie. I suggest if anyone is interested in like behind the scenes filmmaking or things like that, to go check out the making of Batman Begins and some clips, because it's phenomenal how they built an entire Gotham City in a warehouse, and it was literally drivable. So you could drive the tumbler around the city, and they had sewer vents popping out and everything like that from the, like, they literally built a city in a hangar. And that's what I really appreciate with this movie, is the love and care that was put into making this not age terribly with CGI and overblown effects. And I think that's where this movie really gets me, is that like when I watch it, I don't notice the movie being a movie as such. I more notice the filmmaking and how well this movie's put together. I also think that they should have focused on Cillian Murphy's character of the Scarecrow as being the main villain rather than Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson's performance. But overall, I really think this is a really good Batman movie. I remember the starting, like you said, the sort of ninja bit, whatever you want to call it. I remember that being longer or feeling longer than it actually is. I think it's only about 45 minutes of the movie is taken up by that sort of storyline there. You know what I mean? And for, the other thing I could have done without, but I suppose you kind of need it just for if it's Batman Begins, is the origin story of how his parents passed into the Bat Cave and things like that. So I could have done without that. But all in all, I think this is a fucking really good Batman movie. So what were some of your standout moments? What were some of the things you didn't like?
I think, as you said, I think Scarecrow was a bit underplayed. Like, he kind of really gets going and then he's gone. Like, it's like, yeah. Oh.
And Cillian Murphy does a great job of being Scarecrow. Like, he is fascinating as an actor in this, you know?
He's one of those actors that just, I don't know what it is about him, but just his look creeps me out. So he was
And
really well cast.
And
Like,
that's what I loved about it, is that scene where he's like, he's here. The Batman is one of my all-time favorite scenes, like in any of the Batman movies. It's just because he's so like wide-eyed and weird looking, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I really love that character in this trilogy.
It's like the guy, I think he replaced Johnny Depp in the Fantastic Beasts movies. That dude as well. Him and Cillian, they're both just weird to look at. It's like there's something unsettling about them in the same ways. It's like, you scare me.
Yeah, well, I mean,
they kind of have a bit of a serial killer look.
Yeah, they do. They do. And the thing about this movie is, I didn't see this movie till after The Dark Knight when it first came out. I wasn't a Batman fan whatsoever. I wasn't into superheroes. I was like skateboarding, music, drugs, but that's all in the past. And then I got into Batman after The Dark Knight, and I fell in love with the Batman, and I fell in love with everything to do with Batman. I started collecting comics. I started building the Lego sets, all because of The Dark Knight. And I went in to watch this. So I had no marker that I was trying to reach with this movie, which I felt was really, it kind of did a disservice to me as well, because I didn't get to see the evolution from Batman Begins to Dark Knight in a natural way like everyone else did. And I think that's why I had a hard time believing that when everyone came out of The Dark Knight, they were like, this fucking movie is the best. I was like, is it really though? You know what I mean? And thank God I listened to everybody, because it really is one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. But we're not talking about that movie. We're talking about this. So I think that this is a great setup to what is the Dark Knight trilogy. And I believe that the Dark Knight trilogy is exactly in the title right there, which is The Dark Knight. So I think that it's a good starting to a good opening sort of movie to a great movie. You know what I mean? So, what was your opinion on the story, the action, just everything in general?
The action was pretty good. It's weird because it was like the movie's aged well, and I don't know if it's just like how young the actors look, but it had this weird feeling dated to it. I can't put my finger on. I think it's just that the actors just genuinely look younger, except for obviously Morgan Freeman and Liam Neeson. They're both kind of ageless. They're just always old to me. But yeah, it's definitely, you notice that it's mostly practical effects and they're not heavy-handed on the CG, which I think, especially for the time it was made, the early 2000s, really made it age well. Because as we've seen with other movies close to that time period, when they were heavy with the CG, they just didn't, like Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, exactly. They were like,
other movies as well, like Spider-Man, the Ben Affleck Daredevil, a shitload of superhero movies were really heavy with the CG when like they're jumping around or swinging around, and they just look fake.
Yeah,
I didn't get that from this at all. It was, it's just aged well for the time it was in.
The only thing that took me out of the moments of like it not being real was the fighting scenes with Batman. I've noticed that when I watched this back really carefully, all the shots of the fight scenes that are really like quick fight scenes are shot very close to the actors. There's like sort of no big like sweeping moments of action. It's all sort of like cuts, like it cuts really quickly and like while they're hitting, so that like it seems more action oriented than it actually is. So like that's probably my only like nitpick with this movie, is sort of the slow starting. As I said, it's not that bad when you rewatch it. The first time I watched it, I was like, come on, get into Batman. You know what I mean? But like now I see what they were doing and I kind of appreciate the starting more. I didn't really understand the full origin of Batman. Like I understood the parents, I understood the cave, I understood Alfred, but I never understood like the League of Shadows. I never really got the idea of that's how Batman became Batman. So it was good to see that. It just could have probably been trimmed down a little bit more. But what did you think about Christopher Nolan, like doing this screenplay and directing? Because before this, like, yeah, I know Christopher Nolan's a good filmmaker, and before this, he was always a good filmmaker. He did things like Memento and things like those movies, but he wasn't like up here with like directing and stuff. He wasn't known for that. So what do you think about his job on this?
Yeah, apart from Memento, these movies are the only ones I really know him from off the top of my head. But yeah, I think he did do a good job. I think obviously we won't get into it too far. I think the third movie maybe not so much, but this one was put together very nicely.
Yeah, well, before this, I'm going to have a quick look at what Christopher Nolan had done before he'd done this movie. So if you have a look before this movie, as a writer, he'd done Tarantula, Doodlebug, Memento, then Batman Begins. Then he wrote the Batman Begins video game. Then he went into Prestige. Then he went into The Dark Knight. So, I mean, before that movie, he was really new to film. You know, I know Memento really well, but like, it wasn't until the Dark Knight trilogy that I feel like Christopher Nolan blew up to being this sort of like highly regarded filmmaker.
Yeah.
And what did you think about Christian Bale, Katie Holmes, Michael Caine? What did you think
Michael
about
Caine might actually be one of my favorite. There's never been a bad Alfred. I think Alfred's always been pretty much on the money. But I think Michael Caine might be one of my favorite Alfreds and one of the favorite things about this trilogy. Just his Cockney accent and his like when the mansion's burning, when Wayne Manor's burning, and he walks up and he clubs the dude out with the golf club. And he's like, oh, I hope you weren't from the fire department. It's like, yes.
Yeah, and
I think like Jeremy Irons and that didn't do bad jobs, but I think Michael Caine he's just good.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And what about the fact that Katie Holmes is in this movie? I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth next episode of when we do The Dark Knight, but what do you think about her taking up the position she did and then not coming back for the sequel?
I was actually thinking about that, and wasn't it something along the lines of Tom Cruise was like, because she obviously dies in the next movie, Tom Cruise is like, no, she can't die, she's not doing this movie, and made her pull the plug pretty much.
Dude, what a mistake, man! Listening to that clown, like,
and then a few years later, they're developed, and it's like, what has Katie Holmes done since this? Like
nothing.
She went into obscurity because of I'm going to call it a cult. No offense to you, Scientologists, but
a cult. And what did you think about Christian Bale as the Batman? Do you think it was a good choice when they first made this decision, or do you think this was an odd choice to pick Christian Bale?
It's an odd choice. He's I think he definitely looks like a Bruce Wayne, but he's a weird looking Batman. I think it's more the suit I like about him than his actual portrayal. I think he gets a bit inaudible in the next movies and things like that.
Inaudible.
Yeah. So he was a parody of himself in the next movies from this one vocally, I think.
That's so funny, man. Imagine that. He's like, Batman, quick help. And he's like standing there, he's like, what was that, Batman? No, I agree. Even in the second one, like The Dark Knight, when it's coming up, is I'm not the guy in hockey pants. But yeah, no, this is a great movie. I love that bit where he hangs that mafia dude up, upside down,
on the spotlight
while they're in the slums, and I like the shipping cargo bit when they've got like all the chicks in the cargo. Is it the Asian girls in the cargo that they've taken?
Yeah.
And then like this is the first time you're seeing the Batman be like the Batman. And when he like calls them, like not calls them, but like they're walking into the dark, and then just like jumps out and grabs them. Like I thought that was a dope way to introduce the Batman. What did you think about how they introduced him after the sort of build up to it?
I think it was good. It's yeah. I think as you said, it was a really, really good kind of sequence to get him introduced yet. That's another thing I don't like though. I don't like how I don't think is it the Falzoni.
Yep.
I don't think he was cast well. He just didn't feel like a mob boss to me.
No, he definitely didn't, did he? It's kind of a weird choice. Yeah, I totally agree. What do you think about Liam Neeson in this movie?
Liam Neeson was good. I think he's pretty much gold in everything he touches. I think Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows themselves don't super grab me, but I think for what they were, it was done well.
Definitely. That's kind of one of the story plot lines in Batman that I've always kind of not been interested in, to be honest, is like Ra's al Ghul, the fucking Lazarus Pit, or whatever you want to call it, Talia, the League of Shadows. Like, I've just found all that stuff very not what I want out of my Batman.
It's in a lot of stuff as well for what it is, which is weird. Like,
Yeah,
even
I used to have
his Arrow show was very League of Shadows heavy, and it's like,
well, yeah, I used to have the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul in Batman comics. Like, I think it was Detective Comics number 200 and something. I can't remember for sure. It's been a while, but I used to have that man, and that's what it's all like. You know, that's what the whole story is founded on. Is basically, just this Lazarus Pit and Ra's al Ghul wanting to live forever, and the League of Shadows, and like even in the later stuff, Damian Robin in the animated movies is like comes from the League of Shadows, and his mum's Talia al Ghul and things like that. So it's a very heavy plot, which I kind of don't like. As I said, it's not something I need in my Batman, and I don't really think we needed it in this movie necessarily. But it was a nice touch on that story anyway. He did a good job of Christopher Nolan did a good job of making this movie make you care about that plot a little bit more than other people would have, even though it's still a little, you know what I mean? So I don't know. What else did you think that they did well in this movie? Was there anything that you kind of rolled your eyes at? Was there anything that you were like, this person sucks? Like, I really like Morgan Freeman, to be honest, as well. I think that was a great choice of that role.
I completely forgot that they had a sneaky Easter egg of Victor Zsasz in it. I don't think he was cast that well, but I've seen him cast worse. But I just like when he pops up. He's just like, Zsasz.
You know what I love?
He's not a massive character, but once again, he shows up everywhere. It's like
this
movie,
movie,
a normal serial killer.
This movie might have the best hype moment at the end of it for the sequel, like the best.
The Joker card?
Oh, dude, it might be the ultimate, like, where you're like, no! Like, I can remember seeing The Dark Knight first. So when I saw that bit, I was like, it didn't hit for me like it hit for everyone else, you know what I mean? Because I'd already seen that movie, but I can just imagine seeing this movie and being like, ha ha! You know what I mean? So, I don't know, definitely a cool, like, what would you call it? Definitely a good hang up. I don't know what you want to call plot hang at the end. It's really cool, man. So with that, we'll quickly get into I'll give you a quick rundown of this. So basically, it's a boring synopsis, but it says after training with his mentor, Batman begins his fight to free crime-ridden Gotham City from corruption. So what did you think about the aspect of what he was trying to aim to do with the corruption and things like that? Because at the start, you saw that he was going to go kill the person that was on trial for his parents' murder. That's also a different take, is that we kind of knew who killed his parents, right? Is it correct that that is the real person, or just the accused?
Sure. I think at least at a point, it definitely Jack Chill was the dude who did it. But I mean, the comics, DC and Marvel retcon themselves all the time as well, so who knows at this point?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I do believe that was a different take on it, I think, which is that we understood who killed them, we understand why, and we see Bruce Wayne try to take revenge on that person in a callous way with shooting him rather than taking up the bat cape and cowl, you know what I mean? So kind of an interesting plot to go with as well. I kind of like that they did that because I'm getting sick of the whole, well, this guy, Batman, can catch all these people around the city, but he can't even work out who killed his own parents, even though he saw the person do it. You know what I mean? So
it was interesting as well. It obviously not identical in any way, shape, or form, but the whole watching them get killed before their eyes when he's kind of going out with the intention to kill them and kind of realizing what he was about to do. It felt very parallel to Spider-Man, like the 2000 Spider-Man movies. So it makes you wonder if they kind of, Christopher Nolan saw that and went, hey, that's not bad. And incorporated it that way.
Definitely. Like, it blows my mind that someone like Christopher Nolan, who doesn't really have a history in Batman comics or Batman or anything to do with superheroes, came along and wrote such a cohesive Batman movie. You know what I mean? It's a really, really solid Batman story, really solid Batman movie. To be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Katie Holmes in this movie. I think that she's very bland. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's being too critical or what?
I agree. I don't think she's a great actor to begin with anyway. She's kind of like chewing cardboard. There's not much flavor.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot with her in it, but anything I've seen her in is kind of like, oh, you're there, are you? You unremarkable bastard.
And let's talk a little bit about, the tech. Like, what do you think about the tumbler? What do you think about the bat sensor thing to call the bat so he can jump down the stairs surrounded by all the bats, the sonar? What do you think about the tech that they used in this movie?
I liked it because they still kept it a little fantastic, which I like in it. I like that they didn't just kind of make it completely grounded. Like he's still swinging around on a grappling, like from a train, which would have just ripped his arm off.
What I find funny, man, is how we're talking about how this is like, we're like, thank God they still kept it kind of grounded. And then in the Batman movie, he literally jumps off a building in a potato sack. Yeah, so what did you think about the Batman car design, like the tumbler and things like that? I know you're a big fan of the original Batmobile, the 1989 one, that is. And I know you said that you just can't beat that feel of that Batman, even like in Forever when it was the same sort of car, but like lit up stupid and shit like that. So, like, what do you think of the tumbler in this movie?
I think I'll put it above the kind of Joel Schumacher neon flashy Batmobile.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I could put it above the original or above the Batman Batmobile. I like when it's close to just being a car. It is a cool idea though. I don't think it's bad.
See,
but it's just not my favorite.
Try thinking it from my perspective, man, which is that they built this car and they literally ran this thing through concrete barriers. Like, this thing was a tank, yeah? And during filming, they literally drove this car 70 miles per hour through concrete barriers, through all the set, like doing spins and all this shit. Like, you've got to find the making of Batman Begins and watch the behind the scenes footage, because when you see this car in real life, bro, tearing through shit, and like they got stunt drivers driving it, him saying it's the best fucking car he's ever driven and all this shit. Like, dude, that's what made me fall in love with this version of the Bat car, is like the groundedness of it and how cool they utilized it in the movie was, you know?
I have a feeling with it, I could be wrong, and I haven't heard it since like pretty much this movie came out, but I have a feeling it actually was also a prototype military vehicle like that. Maybe not in the same capacity they say in the movie, but I'm pretty sure that's where the idea of the tumbler came from. The military were designing something like that, if not the same as that. And they went,
man, that's so dope, you know? Like, that's fucking dope, that car.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like about the style of this whole movie, is that everything kind of matches the tumbler feel, which is like the grappling gun, the actual cape he wears, where it's like army. What do they say it is? It's like stuff.
The memory cloth or whatever it was.
Yeah. How it can like be like a parachute, basically, like extend. You know what I mean? And shit. Like, I just really like the style they put to this. It sort of was like a guerrilla army feel to the whole movie. I also really like how they utilized the Bat Cave, having the waterfall, and how the tumbler jumps through the waterfall, and they actually did that as a real stunt. Like, that was really done for real. They jumped it over a jump into a waterfall into the cave itself, and they flooded the cave and everything like that. Like, it's just intense, the amount of work that went into this movie. And I think that's why I really do like this fucking movie more than I should. You know what I mean? It's just because I'm a nerd for film, and I'm a nerd for seeing how things are made, and I love watching behind the scenes footage of things like that. So when I watched this, like, I was blown away. And then we're not going to talk about it too much, but to continue that and just up themselves every time in the trilogy of doing practical effects and leaving very little to CG, I think is such a cool thing. You know, that's what I really appreciate about these movies and this movie as well. Sort of bringing Batman out of the campiness, the goofiness that we were stuck in with the original four. Well, you know, not the first one so much, not the second one, but the third and the fourth definitely, to go on a different direction. And like, literally, you got to think about how imaginative they all were on this movie set to like take Batman and Robin, which was the last movie we had for Batman, and turn it into this. And it didn't disappoint Batman fans. If anything, it just made everyone love Batman even more, you know?
I feel they intentionally went in the opposite direction as well. They went, no, we can't hand this up at all. We cannot.
Well, if you look, man, it was a while before we got this movie. It was 97. This
97, yeah.
Batman and Robin, and this was 2005. Like, that's 8 years, bro, without a Batman movie. I think that Warner Brothers was just like, nope. After Batman and Robin, you know, like, nope. And then they saw probably a draft, or they hired Christopher Nolan to write a draft, and they were really impressed and were like, yep, that's what we're going to do. And I think that, honestly, it saved Batman.
It's interesting as well when you think of, even over that 8 years or whatever, Batman was still a hot thing. Like, he's never been where'd Batman go? But they still left it that long. It's interesting.
Yeah, man. I mean, after Batman and Robin, like, just the word around town that movie got, you know what I mean? Like, everyone was like, no, fuck that shit, you know? But
we'll stick to cartoons and rides and
we'll just sell costumes on
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as a Batman movie, we're going to get into the rankings at the end of this episode, but I mean, I'd give how many stars out of 5 would you give this movie if you were ranking it on its own?
I'll probably give it, I mean, to look at it as objectively, not say like, because I'm not huge on Batman, so to look at it more objectively, I'll give it, with what it did and what it did for the character, I'll give it a solid 3.5 to 4. Like, it's not...
I'm exactly there with you, man. I'm exactly there with you. I'd probably give it a 4, leaning heavily on the higher side, because I said those film tricks, like the filmmaking aspect to it, which is what grasps me into the world. It's not exactly the story. It's not exactly the made up shit. It's watching it, how they did it. You know what I mean? Or working out, oh, well, that's real. And seeing like the touches that's what I love about this movie. And it's one of the few movie franchises where I'll like fall in love with a movie simply because of how it was made. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm right there with you. So before we get into our ranking, of course, we're going to go with our old-fashioned ranked and reviewed trivia for the movie. So I'm guessing there's going to be some nice trivia in this. All right. It says, although Christian Bale performed many of his stunts, he wasn't allowed anywhere near the Batmobile. Christian Bale's active dislike of his uncomfortable Batman outfit helped his performance as the Dark Knight, as he was perpetually in a foul mood when wearing it. Just a pissed off Batman. Writer and director Christopher Nolan is reputed to have been so fascinated with Cillian Murphy's bright blue eyes that he kept trying to find reasons and ways to have Crane remove his glasses. I don't know if you noticed that.
Really? I didn't actually pick up on that, no.
Well, every scene, he removes his glasses and puts them down. And, like, there's these bright blue eyes. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I remember that. While shooting on the streets of Chicago, a person accidentally crashed into the Batmobile. The driver was apparently drunk and said he hit the car in a state of panic, believing the Dark Knight's vehicle had to be an invading alien spacecraft.
This is a thought process. I'm going to hit him with my car.
Dude, imagine that. Like, and can you tell me why he crashed into the Batmobile today? I thought it was aliens. All right. Oh man, that was great. Christian Bale decided early on in the audition process that he didn't want to play Batman straight, but to play him as a rage-filled monster, figuring that it might polarize writer and director Christopher Nolan. To his delight, Nolan was thrilled with his off-kilter interpretation.
Fair.
Writer and director Christopher Nolan decided there would be no second unit, and so for the whole 129 shooting days, Nolan oversaw every shot of this movie personally. We'll go a couple more. Much of Batman's gear and apparel, including his cape and suit, is based on real-life military technology. There you go.
Ah.
An unforeseen problem with the Ninja Training Academy was that Liam Neeson towered over the rest of the men. This was swiftly solved by putting most of the ninjas on wooden blocks. Heath Ledger was considered for the role of Bruce Wayne / Batman during this movie's early development. Before Ledger and Nolan agreed he was not right for the role. Years later, he was cast as the Joker in The Dark Knight 2008, a role that won him a humorous. No,
I think.
No, it just said posthumous.
Ah.
Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Cool. And we'll go with one more. The cape was made with a technique called elastrostatic flocking, taught by the crew by the British Ministry of Defence and normally used to decrease the night vision visibility of objects. Nylon parachute fabric was brushed with glue and covered with fine like hair material. An electrostatic current was then passed under the material, creating a dark sheen while maintaining the billowing appearance. Hectic. So, yeah, that's some interesting trivia. I mean, there's so much, man. Like, we could just go on with this. Go one more, actually. At the time of this movie's release, Forbes magazine did a breakdown of how much it would actually cost to become Batman. The magazine estimated the total expenses would be around $3.5 million. I have a feeling it would be a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
The car, come on. The car on its own is going to be over $1 million. It's a tank. All right. So with that, let's get into the scary bit. The one that I'm very worried about your safety for, Alan. And that is our ranking. Now, Alan, where are you going to put this? I'm very worried about this now.
I'm very torn with it. Like, I respect a lot about what went behind it. So it's kind of on one hand, it's like the nostalgia and the kid factor of the other ones, like your Batman Forever and everything like that. And there's this, and it's just it's hard to call, but I'm probably going to put this, we'll say, as we can't do equals, can we?
Oh, I don't know, man. That's a rule that we haven't discussed on this show.
Yeah. We won't. I'll make a decision, and just to save your sanity a little bit more, I'll put it just above Batman and Robin. It was going to go on a bit. I like
it. Okay, I'm doing it.
Right in your head right now, you're like, it's not good, but it could have been worse.
Yeah, it definitely could have been worse, man. It definitely could have been worse. And that's what I appreciate, is that you took my feelings into account. You know what I mean? All right, so I'm nearly finished doing this. Finishing up the ranking. While I'm doing this, Alan, why don't you sing him a Batman song or something?
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. Batmobile lost its wheel, the Joker got away. Hey! They need to make more of that song. Like.
They do. All right. So we're going to bring up our official rankings so far of these movies. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about this, Alan. I don't know about yours, but I'm feeling good. All right, 1 second, everyone.
It's balanced. Thanos would like it.
That's what you want to call it, man. If that's what you want to call it, balanced. So our official ranking looks like this.
Uh-huh.
So, for everyone listening and not watching, my ranking goes a little like this. Number 1, Batman Begins. Number 2, Batman Forever. Number 3, Batman 1989. Number 4, The Batman. Number 5, Batman Returns. Number 6, Batman and Robin. And then Alan's is looking like this. Number 1, Batman Forever. Number 2, Batman Returns. Number 3, Batman Begins. Number 4, Batman and Robin, barely. Number 5, Batman. Number 6, The Batman. So, that's what I find interesting about this is that The Batman is now officially your least favorite Batman movie.
That is interesting. I've been hard on that movie, I think.
So am I, man.
The funny thing is, I didn't dislike it. It just, I don't know.
I feel like I'm getting that Batman Forever review year date wrong. I think it's 95, isn't it?
I think so.
Doesn't matter. Everyone fucking knows what movie I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that's a fair ranking. It's kind of weird that, yeah, we're so all over the place with that last Batman movie and everyone coming out of that Batman movie going, best fucking movie ever. And me and you being like, meh.
It was good, but now I'm chronically depressed.
Something in the way.
It's so bad. Oh, dude. So, that was fun, man. That was a really cool chat about Batman Begins and everything Batman related, I think.
Yeah, I think
This
so.
week, we have more. We're wrapping up the show now, obviously, but this week we have more we're going to bring to you, including our full-blown review discussion of the game The Quarry, which me and Alannis are both playing at the moment. He is currently playing it on Xbox Series X. I'm currently playing it on PlayStation 5. Now, before we end the show, I just want to ask you one question about this game. Have you noticed any technical issues yet? I've
noticed there's a couple of scenes where Abby and Caitlin, their hair starts shaking.
Dude, there's a shit there. I'm seeing the same thing as you occasionally, but there's a scene where it goes to the hunters in the woods, yeah? And this dude's head was like smudged all over the back of the cave, man. Like, just a drag mark of him, yeah? Like, it looked fucking. So, yeah, I've noticed a couple of things of that, but I'm looking forward to talking more about that with you tomorrow. So, everyone, look for that tomorrow night. We're going to be releasing the Quarry review tomorrow. And if we can fit it in, we're definitely going to do another Louder Pop Culture podcast as we want to react to the latest trailer for Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, I think it's called. Is it Do the Universe?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got a bunch of other things that we want to talk about. So keep your eye out for that. As for this show, next week we'll be back with our ranking and reviewing of The Dark Knight, continuing our Batman ranked and reviewed series. And also, if you haven't checked it out yet, go and check out our Jurassic Park / World ranked and reviewed series. We just finished that off with our review of Jurassic World Dominion, which we highly recommend you go see. And we had a lot of fun with that movie. Whether the people like the locusts or not, that's another story, you know.
Raptors.
Locusts. I'm not the one wearing locusts pants.
I'm locusts.
Rachel! So everyone, that has been this week's episode of Ranked and Reviewed. I am your host, as always, Tomye West. Joining me, as always, has been my co-host, ALANNIS Maximus. Remember, please subscribe, like and share. Leave a comment because it makes us feel good, which should make you feel good. Isn't that right, Alan?
You should feel good for liking and sharing.
But as we said earlier, not too good. Don't go weird on us.
Yeah.
Know? And Alan, when does this episode end?
now.